What's up? It's Chika, and I'm hanging out with Rob on Front Row Live. Watch it. You might as well. You're already here. Just keep watching. It's gonna roll after this. I'm pretty sure.
You are like insane when you get in front of a mic, like the way that you deliver your lyrics, and then you jump into like choruses and melodies, and then you jump into like speed. Like, how do you tackle all these all at once?
I feel like when I first started writing songs, that was something that was very like prominent to me. I started writing like melody first and playing guitar and things like that. Yeah. And so for that reason alone, I have that already locked down in terms of hopping into melody. In terms of like speed and all that, yeah. Practice. Like it just, I did Instagram for so long that like it got boring to do the same type of verse every time. So I'm like, what'll get people excited? What gets me excited? And that's hearing people like clearly spit some like fire things, and I'm like, all right, cool, we here.
Were there like particular lyrics for you that kind of like kickstarted all this for you?
With like industry games?
With industry games or just like your music in general?
No, not really. I've always known I was gonna do music, but in terms of industry games, it was more so the vibe of where I was that time in life. I just got into LA and I was just like, yo, I'm gonna do this the right way. I'm gonna do it like the way that it looks and feels best to me. And the energy that I brought to that song, even in terms of the speed and all that, it wrote itself based on just simply the way I felt.
Right. Now, because you kind of grew up with like guitars and stuff like that all at the same time, like, is that the reason why you chose the producer that you did, Lito, who's been not only working with hip hop, but has also been like working with artists like Alice in Wonderland and various other different genres? Is that like a reason why you went with him?
Lito's a genius and like a good friend. Shout out to you, Lito. But he, in high school, like he was my favorite producer, and it still is my favorite producer of all time.
Was there a reason why you caught up to his music?
No, I mean I was listening a lot to like Chance and No Name and like that everyone from that region, and I had stumbled across a few songs that like I really liked, and I realized the reason I liked them was the sonic signature on them. Like I got like the horns on them. I was like, whoa, yeah. Who's doing that? Like, and it was Lido and Brass Tracks, and like I would be like, oh wow, like that sounds really dope. That sounds like the type of music I like because I'm from Alabama. It's soulful. Right. I liked hearing brass. I liked hearing strings and all that. And Lito, he'd do like electronic music too. Like, and so I just would I'd hear these songs, and then every so often I'd see the name Lito, and I'd be like, something about this Lito fellow, yeah. And I at the time, like, when I dropped out of school in 2017, wow. Life is fast. Or was it 2016? 2016, wow. Anyway, when I dropped out of school, one of my favorite songs at the time was Heaven Only Knows by Tokyo, and Chance and Lito. And I was like, there might be something to this. And I already knew Chance, so I knew it wasn't Chance doing this on the music. And I knew Tokyo, so I was like, it's not him. And I Googled Lito, and I was like, we've tracked it down. And he has made like a lot of dope remixes to a lot of songs I liked, and he used to go by Trippy Turtle and would like drop music there, and like his production style is so specific, and it sounds like, not to be corny, but like the music of my soul, like really. And so when I got the opportunity to meet him and sit down with him and work, it was an immediate connection. I was like, yo, this dude's fire. Like I was such a fan. I was like, I'm trying not to stand out right now, but and now it's like literally big bro vibes. I really appreciate him, and he executive produced the project and produced and heavily helped with a lot of the songs and everything. Yeah.
Now is he out here now, or is he still like out in?
He bounces around. Okay. He's like he'll be in Chicago sometimes, and then most of the time it's between here and Chicago. Okay. He prefers Chicago. He's told me that. But he's out here, and then sometimes he goes back to Norway, just chill with his family and things.
So where did the creative or the recording process of this EP happen? Was it like a mixture of places, or did it all take place here in LA?
All LA. It was mainly at a studio very close to my house. I almost dropped it, but I was like, that's dangerous.
That's not a good idea.
That's not it. I'll move. But yeah, no, it all happened in LA. And over a series of, like, at first it was like bouncing around in and out of studio sessions, but when it came down to finishing the project, when that meant like recording everything, it was like a 3-week process of just locking in and getting everything done.
So, talk to me more about like that creative process between the two of you. Like, when it comes to the sounds, like how did the sounds come about? Is that something that you and him kind of picked and chose, or like did you have these sounds in mind? Like, did you guys create anything from scratch? Like, how did that go?
So I know for Songs About You and Crown, those two beats existed, but they were older for him. So he was just like, oh, these are the things I worked on. And I was like, ooh, I have songs that would fit over these perfectly. And because Crown had existed since I was 19. It was the first rap song I wrote. And when I heard it, I was like, oh, this sounds like something Crown should be on, like, because it was a completely different beat. And I love that beat too, but this one was like very joyful, and it felt like good. And it felt like classic Lito, and that was my whole point. Like, I'm in here with Lito. I'm gonna make sure his sound is on this song. And so with those songs, they existed, and then we just fleshed them out and like added so much to them. And like everything I heard, I was like, "Can we do this? Can we do this?" And Lito's like, "Yeah, I don't see why not." And then Balenci's, like, we built that from scratch because we were in the studio working on songs about you, and the choir was improvising, and we both were like, record that. Like, I started beatboxing over it, and then Lito started beatboxing, and I started rapping this poem that I was writing, actually. And he was like, "Yo, we should just make it a track." And I was like, "You're right. It doesn't need to be a poem. Let's make it a track." And so, like, even picking sounds on that one, it's funny. My puppy picked a lot of the sounds on there. Like, when her ears would perk up, we'd be like, "All right, Vision.
That's how you know.
Vision said it goes, so it goes." So now my puppy has writer credits and producer credits. Thank you so much, baby. But yeah, no, the creative process with us it flows so well because he's so creative and he's so open to things, and he sounds so much like me in terms of the music that he makes, and he's so good at it. Like, and it works fine, perfectly.
Now you are a poet, so it's like, what, how different is writing a song compared to writing a poem? Is there much of a difference?
Not really, not much of a difference. It's more so that with a song, you kind of there's more structure, and that's not a problem. Like, I'm chaotic, but I like structure too. With poems, though, you get the creative license to like play around with different like time signatures and like rhyme schemes and things like that, and like do what you want. It's very freeform, and that's what makes it so honest, and like why poetry hits so hard. But with songs, it's no different. It's just like a different creative process, I think. One that you feel more like hyping because you're like hearing the beat and you're like, "Oh shit, let's do it." Yeah, it's like that.
Now, talk to me about that song that you said was your first rap song when you were 19. Why did you choose to still put that song out? Because I feel like a lot of artists, like their first track, they never really want to release it.
Yeah.
So why did you feel this song was so important that it needed to be part of this debut EP?
I mean, luckily I wasn't horrible when I wrote it. So if I was horrible, I wouldn't have kept it. So I'll just say that as a quick, easy win there. But in terms of the message of it, it's inspiring, and it's one that I think still stands. And I wrote it when I had nothing, and so here I am with like the world at my feet, about to drop this first project. And I'm like, it's a victory lap. It very much so is, and it's something that still rings true. Like, I want people to know that it's okay to drop out of school. Right. And not, it sounds horrible, but it's okay to drop out of school. It's okay to pursue something you're passionate about, as long as you're attacking it from a place of genuineness and like making sure that you're doing it the right way, and that the messages that you're trying to spread are ones that ultimately are constructive in some way, even if it's a sad message, even if it's something that's like, ooh, taboo to talk about. Like, just make sure if you're going to apply your time somewhere, apply it in the right place. And that doesn't always have to be school. Right. And it doesn't have to be the way that your parents or your friends or anyone around you thought you were going to do it. And so with that being the message of the song, and me writing that freshly after dropping out, like, it is one of those songs that for me in my life is timeless. And I just made sure that, like, okay, let's put it on there. It fits the whole theme.
Now, what would you say like was your biggest like obstacle to get to where you're at today, from when you first started trying to pursue the music industry? Because it's not easy to be an artist, but like, what would you say was like that obstacle that like you weren't sure if you were even going to meet it?
Myself, my mental health, yeah. Having to like be on at certain times, and especially working on social media, it's a job that doesn't pay, so you kind of have to remind yourself that what you're doing is worth it, and that you're not crazy, and you're not one of these people who's like, ooh, I had a taste of success, and like now I'm just like itching for it at all times. Like, I'm gonna be one of those thirsty influencers. Not that all influencers are thirsty. There's just a few that will do anything for an attention grab. And when you're trying to build a career, you need that attention. But how do you do it without coming off disingenuous and without selling your soul for it? And so with that, there's a lot of waves of emotion and waves of like figuring out if you're doing anything that's worth anything. And with that comes mental health issues, and comes like depression and anxiety and all these things that you kind of have to fight through as a human in order to even be an artist. So I think that was my biggest hurdle. Anything I've ever gone through industry-wise, or like in terms of like putting out anything or productivity, it's always been me. It's always been me having to feel okay in order to do okay.
Now, as you kind of touched on mental health, like, do you feel like those days where you woke up not feeling like you wanted to do anything or just wanted to stay in bed, like, do you feel like those days were lost days to you, or do you feel like those were days where you got to get to know yourself a little bit more?
It's funny because on Balenci's, I wrote, on Balenci's, because people always mispronounce it, and I just said it the way everyone else does because I stuttered. On Balenci's, there's a line that says, and the whole world is conversating about your waistline, and mental health days make you guilty because you waste time. And that's what it feels like. It feels like you're wasting time. But like, for me, I know that I'm not wasting time. But when you're in an industry that constantly begs for you as a person to be present and here and like be able to give content and be able to talk and like express, when you do take time for yourself, sometimes you do feel guilty because you're like, am I doing my career a disservice? But ultimately, if you're not good, you have no career. If I'm not alive, then like none of this means anything. So you have to take care of yourself first. Like even if it was like if I was sick, if I had a cold and I have a performance, my management would tell me to go home. Like you need to get better. Your throat is a part of performing, and my brain is a part of how I write. My brain is a part of how I do everything in life, and apart from my career and in my career. So nowadays, like no, mental health days don't feel like lost days. I look back on them and I'm like, those are times I needed to be to myself. Even days that I've had breakdowns, I'm like, I'm so grateful I got to do that. I'm so grateful that like it's out now. Like I got over it.
Reality check for you.
For sure, for sure. Oh, 100%. Like it's one of those moments where you're like, "Whew, okay, I'm still human. Like I got it out. I got my human like glitch out. Like let's get back to work."
Right. Now going back into the studio to make Industry Games EP, like, what is it about these 7 songs that you felt were so important to your debut? This is the first time that people are hearing you on a major scale. So like, why did you feel these tracks were like so important to you?
I felt like they were important simply because my story has been one that like you could technically write for yourself if you looked at my social media, or people think they could at least. But the behind the scenes of it is not what it's always seemed. It's not like the way that people probably perceive it. Like they're like, "Oh, you've been on social media for such a long time. Like you've been good. Like but now you have a look." But like there was times I was broke. There was times where I like didn't have anything. There was times I wasn't okay, and like I've lost a lot as much as I've gained. Like, and so I think that this is the first inside look for my fans and for my supporters and even for my family. Like my parents are gonna hear things that they don't know about. Like not jarring things, but like they'll hear a lot about who I am and like how I've grown based on these songs. And so me entering in the industry this way, I wanted to make sure I did it on the right foot. I did it the right way. I spoke about what I'm going to do rather than like only where I've been, like I wanted to make sure it was a firing shot, and that even starts with the intro. Like, call it intuition, but I'm about to change the world. It's been my only mission. Like, if you play back my discography in 20 years, that's how I started it. Like, that's what I put out as my first project, the first line of my first project.
And doing so, it's like you're opening up to a world that you don't know about. You don't know who's listening. You don't know who's watching. But like, you're very vulnerable on this EP. So like, did you kind of struggle in the studio when you were like recording these songs because you were opening up so much to your audience?
No, like I said earlier, like I'm a Pisces, so like my thing is to literally get into my feelings, dig around, and be like, what does this mean and what does that mean? And so in terms of being emotional, when I like write something that makes me like that hurt, like when I do that, I'm like, oh, someone's gonna feel that. That's gonna resonate with somebody. And with that being said, someone's gonna be able to look at themselves and be like, oh, this is what that is, and like identify their problems and not project them onto someone else. So with me being vulnerable, I'd much rather do it that way than for us to like have a whole bunch of hurt people walking around who aren't able to check themselves and their egos and like know when they've made mistakes. I'll talk about mine so we can all talk about ours. It's one of those situations.
Now, how do you feel like Lito challenged you in the studio? Like whether it was vocally, whether it was lyrically, whether it was like trying new things as far as like sounds, like do you feel like there was one specific thing that really like challenged you? You get challenged?
I don't really get challenged. I feel like like Lito, if anything, challenges in terms of like comfort. So like I don't like working in I didn't like working in studios. I love it now. But I started recording in my closet when I was like really young. And so getting into a studio space where I had to like write and like sit there and like Lito's like playing the beat, and I'm sure he's heard his beat a million times because he made it. And you're not on a time crunch, but you feel like you are. You're like, damn, I just want to get this out so he can like he can hear what I'm humming to myself, even though he can't hear it. He's just listening to the beat on a loop for 40 minutes. In that way, it's a challenge to be like, okay, like let's put out my best work, but also in an efficient manner. But in terms of actual challenges in the studio, I don't think there have been any. Like the only challenging days in the studios for me have been like the days I didn't need to be there, and I felt like I had to go, And on those days, I'd just rap early and go home. Luckily, it was near my house, like I said. Don't look it up. But I would just be able to be like, I'm not feeling it, and the vibe here isn't right. And that was a challenge too, learning that I could say that rather than like having to sit there and waste time and that's coming out of my pocket. So like sitting there and like having to, like tell myself like, hey, today is not a good creative day for you. You need to be at home. You need to like sit home and think and be present in your own space before you can enter anyone else's and create something for the world.
Do you feel like you learn more about your mental health during this recording process, or do you feel like you learn more about like recording in general?
I think I learned more about my mental health throughout the entire journey of moving to LA unexpectedly. And with that being paired with the recording process, yes. I don't think that going forward, it's only going to be when I record that I know things about myself. It's just that these two journeys ran like concurrently and like together, and like on a, it was two streams that were just like flowing next to each other. And so like with me having to be in the studio and learning a new type of way to create something, and at the same time learning a new environment. Like if there was any discomfort in one, there was discomfort in the other, and if there was harmony, there's harmony in both. And so when things got off, I kind of like was able to pinpoint where they were, because if I'm not doing good mentally, then I'm not gonna do good in the studio. Sure. So that's like, it was just a cool thing to be able to like reflect that way. Now I'm here though, and I'm used to the shit. So like I'm like, all right, cool. Like how can I stay up on my mental if I'm, you know, if I'm just out and about and like doing things like this. And it's just by being, you know, centered and having people around you who center you too.
Right. Now the EP drops this Friday. It's your debut for Warner Records. Congratulations once again. What else is next for you? Like, I know times are a little difficult for the world right now, but like, do we see any, great way to put it. But do we see like any upcoming like show plans, tour plans? Like, what do you see happening now that this EP is out?
As soon as y'all get over this corona shit, I will be in your nearest city. You know, we have some little tour things, some little tour announcements coming out, but I'm definitely looking forward to being able to like actually break bread, not literally because y'all sick, but break bread with my fans and like talk to them and like see the people who've just been numbers for the past 4 years, and like just like likes for the past 4 years and usernames. I want to be able to like talk to them in person. And I one thing I did recently before any of this was supposed to drop is that I went to Santa Monica Pier and just like tweeted my location, was like, everybody pull up, and like I got to actually meet and talk and like actually have friendships with the people who've been supporting me. So in the same way, like I want to be able to do that on a larger scale, and so we will. But yeah, that's mainly it. And world domination. But besides that,
that's coming. That's just naturally coming.
For sure.
Well, Chika, thank you so much for hanging out with me. You guys be sure to check out Chika. Debut EP, Industry Games, is probably out now by the time you guys are watching this, and thanks for watching here on Front Row Live.